and welcome to The Right Side, the Livingston County Republican Party's podcast. My name is Deb Drick. I am the chair of the Livingston County Republican Party, and I'm the host for this podcast. And tonight, I have a very special co-host with me tonight. We have Commissioner Nick Fiani. Nick, you're in what commission district?
So I serve District 8.
And District 8 includes what areas?
Most of Hamburg Township and a good portion, almost half of Genoa Township.
Okay, wonderful. And you've been a commissioner how long?
I'm on my third year now.
Okay, all right. Well, we've got a bunch of great stuff to talk about tonight. Nick's going to talk about some of the stuff that's happening at the commission. There have been some really cool things happening there. And we also have, right now, I think we also have Representative and Appropriations Chair, Ann Bollin, is going to be joining us in a little while. And then after that, we have Congressman Barrett that's going to be patched in from Washington. So get your questions ready for everybody, and we'll be featuring them as we go. I just want to kind of give you a little bit of, before we go anything else, want to kind of touch on some happy news or some news that's going on. First of all, we want to give a great big congratulations to Taryn Big Fry out there, who was named by the American Legion as the Iraqi Veteran of the Year, and he was shocked and surprised and humbled, but he was well deserved. Taryn's a great guy. He's a great Republican. He's an advocate for veterans, and you see him everywhere recruiting and helping, and he's just a good guy. So you'll remember him. He came and he was a guest a few podcasts ago where he talked about the importance of the pledge before public meetings and what a flag means to a veteran. So we're real happy to see that. So ranked choice voting, that's a big topic these days. You heard a lot about that? I know that Sharon Lalio and Connie Robinson and Marcia Dix, that's our stellar delegate team. They invited somebody. They had a meeting about it, and they did that for the delegates. There's a meeting tonight over at the League of Women Voters are hosting a meeting explaining that tonight. I think you're going to get two different explanations depending on if it's that's coming from a liberal explanation or if it's coming from a conservative explanation. But I've had people ask us about it, so won't be long. We're going to have somebody on the podcast so to explain that. I think that's it's a fair thing to do. Want to just do a little shout out for Brian Ignatowski, who has started a project. He's going to be asking for plastic bags. Asking for plastic bags to be donated, bring them to the LCRP EC meeting or outside the Victory Center. There's a plastic bin right by the door. They'll be collecting 1,100 of those and then weave them together for mats for some homeless. So that's a project they're taking on. And I'm also happy to tell you that at this Thursday, just a reminder, this is the Thursday executive committee meeting. The executive committee will do the business between 7 and 7:30, and then at 7:30 we have a general Republican meeting where other announcements and things. And this week we have a special guest, Representative Brian Posthumus will be coming, and he'll be talking about his ballot proposal. And his ballot proposal refers to you have to be an American citizen to vote, and it's putting that in the Constitution. So,
what a concept!
I know. What do you think? Yeah, the fact that we have to make that, put that in our Constitution to make it work is kind of scary. But so, any other announcements that you've got? You want to talk about?
There's a handful of exciting things that we're doing on the Livingston County Board of Commissioners. If you'd like me to dive into them, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing. Oh, you know what? We forgot something. This is License Your Dog Month. So make sure that's the other last announcement. We have to make sure. Well, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you have a puppy or a pet dog, make sure you head over to the Livingston County Clerk's office at the Historical Courthouse in Howell and make sure you get a license for them. It is the law.
It is the law. Yes, it is. And you can also, I think you can go to the animal control and get it as well.
The animal control and animal shelter. Yes.
So yep. Either way you can do that. So.
It's very inexpensive. So.
All right. So let's talk about commission stuff. You got some exciting things happen recently. And I mean, first and foremost, what excites me is the new substations. Tell everybody about the substations.
Oh, this is a really exciting project, and it's really a project that's been in the works for some time now. It's truly an honor for me to serve as chair of the finance committee for the board of commissioners for the county. And since I was elected about a little more than 2 years ago, I've had the honor to work with our commissioner Frank Sample in helping spearhead this project. Essentially, this comes down to the board's emphasis and enthusiasm for ensuring that all members of public safety and our first responders have the best resources, the best tools, and we're heavily investing in those aspects in those services. Uh, it, it was it was a project that was initially uh, put to put to the forefront by our EMS Director Dave Feldposh.
Okay.
His, I'll say, eagerness to make sure that we maximize our response times to all corners of the county became the driver of this project.
Mm-hmm.
His enthusiasm for ensuring that all members of the county, all residents of the county, are served by EMS. And so, with that being the case, he did determine that there's certain areas within the county that could use a additional EMS substation. And after it was determined that the northwestern portion of the county, which would be around the Kahakta area, and then also the southern portion of the county, which in our case was Putnam Township, were the two locations where we decided that were most opportune to place the substations. So after a lot of due diligence and reviewing various concepts and making sure that all the finances were in order, we went ahead and proceeded with some architectural renderings and then put out for bid the actual projects themselves. We did go with Schaefer Construction, which is a local construction company here in Livingston County, and they were also the lowest, most responsible bidder as well. And fortunately, because of the fiscal fiscally conservative, um, the prioritization on being fiscally conservative, we were able to actually invest in these substations without having to run a millage or a bond for them.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's incredible. That's
So-
that is that's Republican. That's Republicans at work for you. So that's awesome. And this is going to cut down response time on average. I mean, I can imagine being in the middle. I think Commissioner Sample told me one time that, out there in the middle of nowhere, it takes a minute before, and really when you're in that kind of emergency situation, those minutes can make the difference between somebody living the next day or somebody going to a funeral.
Well, yeah, when you're talking about 1 or 2 minutes making the difference between life and death, it's an easy decision to make, and although expensive one, in this case, the two stations combined will be just under 3.2 million. But again, you won't see a dollar go up in your taxes because fortunately we've been saving for this investment, and we'll be paying for it. We'll be paying for it without raising taxes.
Oh my gosh. And I guess that's what you get when you had Doge first before Doge was cool.
Oh, between Commissioner Drick and Commissioner Nakagiri and myself, we were Doge before Doge.
Well, you know what? And it pays off, right? We do not have to bond for this. We don't have to. No millage, no bond, no tax, no runs, no drips, no errors. It's awesome. So what else is going on? You got some ARPA funds that you've done some stuff with.
So over about the past 2 years or so, we've utilized our ARPA funds very responsibly. We've heavily invested in a handful of infrastructure projects. With myself representing Hamburg Township, it's been a major priority for me to make sure that we work on the flooding within the flooding issues within Hamburg Township that Hamburg endures. And so we've been fortunate to have sufficient funds to invest in certain dam projects and certain roadway projects that will, or I should
And we're back.
So was that a Republican cost saving measure? We eliminate the camera feed.
Here's Commissioner Drick saying you want copied us. Okay. All right. So Bob Kittredge checking in. Hi, Bob. So yes, you guys have done. So you were talking about ARPA stuff. So
yeah. So we've been heavily investing in infrastructure projects throughout the county. We've invested over $4 million for upgraded drainage systems, new dams. We've pledged our the county's full faith and credit, because with our AAA bond rating, we obviously get better interest rates. So
sure.
When other entities, municipalities, or entities go out for when they go out for a bond, we will pledge our full faith and credit with them in partnership, so they can exercise a lower interest rate.
They can take advantage of that lower interest
Absolutely.
rate by partnering with you guys.
Yes.
Awesome. That's terrific. So what did you guys are always looking to improve stuff? You got something in the works that you're redoing or creating or dismantling?
Well, we're always looking to maximize the efficiency of government. We're also always looking to reduce the size of government where possible and eliminate potential red tape, or make sure we're utilizing our resources as most effectively. We have been reviewing all our committees that the county has, and in doing so, we've looked at certain committees that may be not operating at maximum efficiency, and we're evaluating, making sure that the members of those communities truly represent the opinions and voices of the residents and citizens of Livingston County.
Sure.
So with that being said, there is one committee that we've been working with and reviewing lately. It's the Human Services and Collaborative Body.
Okay.
It's abbreviated as the HSCB. This one is particularly interesting to me because it's a large committee. It's a committee comprised of 26 people, and it causes one to speculate if that's the most efficient size of a committee, particularly for that purpose. In doing so, we had our annual submission of applicants for the renewal of positions, and that came up around last fall or so. What's interesting in particular is when I reached out to the applicants, there were 4 or 5 or so. I had some questions, and to me, they were very easy, straightforward questions to answer, no matter what political party you belong to.
Sure.
And in fact, I'll share the questions because I guess NPR found it interesting enough where they actually published an article on it. But
oh wow!
So my 3 questions were, and let me take a step back. The HSCB was originally founded to help young adults and children within the county and make sure they have access to necessary resources. And then it grew into helping improve resources and the effectiveness of resources for families, and particularly families with children. And now it's essentially a committee that is supposed to facilitate all types of those who may be in need, or those who have some type of need and are seeking resources. So anyways, with this originally starting out to be a child-focused or children-focused committee, I asked 3 what I consider simple questions. One was, as a member of the committee, do you support the organizational framework of diversity, equity, inclusion? Second question was, would you support a female under the age of 18 receiving abortion services without the consent of a legal guardian or a parent?
Okay.
And the third one was, would you support an individual seeking services or seeking gender alternate services without parental consent or consent of a legal guardian if they're under age 18?
Okay.
I mean, to me, again, regardless of the party you belong to, it seems like a reasonable question. Well, apparently they took offense to it, and they objected. They objected not only to answering those questions, but they objected to even interviewing before the Board of Commissioners. So, long story short, we had postponed the appointments, and we're continuing to evaluate the positions on this board. there is an interest in reducing the size of this committee from 26 members down to
26 members. Wow.
26 members. Reduce it down to 7 members or so. Certainly, the committee is more than welcome to have advisors or consultants or area experts to participate. But when you're discussing a county-sponsored committee, 26 members just seems to be way too many individuals to be effective and efficient for the most part. And again, the desire would be to scale it back to around 7 members or so potentially. So if you see your commissioners or happen to run into them, I would encourage you to share your thoughts on the situation.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to be happy that you told them to do that. All right. Well, we got some comments here. Well, Karen has chimed in here to say, thank you. It is really impressive that we're able to have a substations bill without any new taxes. So thanks to you on that one. And here's Stacy Rutledge, hating his computer, but finally making it. So, all right. Welcome, Stacy. Glad you joined us. All right. So let's see. Anything else going on? Oh, you know what? Can you explain? This is probably the question that I hear the most when it comes about the commissioners. And I don't know what you're legally allowed, so don't cross any lines here. But there's a whole lot of misinformation about a lawsuit with the courts. And here's the story that we're getting from the other side of from the other side. And it's basically you guys cut the court budget and made them lost jobs, and you're micromanaging what they have to do in the positions and blah blah blah. So I don't see this board that way. So could you tell us kind of what really happened at whatever you're legally allowed to share?
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy to. It was a really sad situation because it was a completely unnecessary, uncalled for, and just a poor direction that former Judge Mike Hattie took in retaliation, in my opinion, against the board. As the board went through its standard budget process last fall, we evaluated our overall revenues, our overall expenditures, then our revenues and expenditures by each department. We worked with every department, including the courts, on the funding that we had available to distribute and what their fiscal needs were. The courts proposed for their individual budget some what I would consider astronomically high number, and our CFO went back and shared what was a more realistic figure and what we also had available from the county financial resources. And as discussions continued, evaluations continued to take place on what was reasonable and what was necessary. And at a certain point, we had to finalize our budget. And when we did, we provided the courts with hundreds of thousands of dollars more for the upcoming year than the county has ever provided them with before. However, it was less than what Mike Hattie was asking for. And Mike Hattie and I had several conversations throughout the year about what his expectations were, and I shared what the board's perception was of the budget and what was available. And even when I inquired, with him where he felt reductions could not be made, he wasn't able to speak to it, which was shocking because as chief judge for the county, he's essentially has the authority to act unilaterally on behalf of the courts, especially when it comes to budgeting. So after these discussions took place, I was still unable to understand where he felt the courts were not receiving necessary funding because he simply wasn't able to articulate it to me. So when the board finally voted to approve the budget, it simply was roughly $200,000 less than what he wanted. It wasn't a reduction of the court's budget. It just simply was about $200,000 less.
How much more was it over the prior year?
Oh, it was probably almost $1 million more.
So we got almost $1 million more, but it wasn't $1.2 million.
Exactly.
And they're we have an issue over this. Well, that's certainly it. And so that dispels the rumor that you guys cut the court, because that doesn't sound like that's at all what you did.
Absolutely right. They receive they receive more money than they have ever before historically. As you know, as we went through the budget process and finalized it and voted on it, approved it, then Mike Hattie started threatening us, and unfortunately, the courts are able to operate unilaterally via the chief judge. So I know that there were several members that did not agree with his position, but it led one to conclude that with him going into his last year of his tenure serving as judge, in my opinion, it became more of an ego issue than an issue of
maybe
finance.
A parting gesture.
Parting gesture.
And what are you going to do to him?
Yes, right? yes.
So that that makes sense. I certainly don't fault Judge Hattie for trying to beef up his budget. I mean, let's face it, we all would love a bigger budget. So I don't blame that, but what I dislike over the whole thing isn't even his not being able to articulate what the reason was. For me, it's the false rumors that were put out there and the articles. I read the articles and it was horrible. And it was articles like that really caused us to start this podcast, because we just couldn't get the truth out. Oh. And I know Jay told me one time that the statute says that once you give them a budget, you cannot tell them how they're allowed to spend it. They can spend it the way they want to spend it, but they on their side cannot tell you what the money you have to give. That's your call, and how they spend it is their call. So it sounded like there was some crossover there where they were demanding the money that was your role. So
that's absolutely correct. Yeah, we do not dictate how they spend it.
Right.
But we do get to set the limit to what they can spend through their budget.
Right.
And what's so unfortunate is, in these lawsuits, the ones who made out, of course, were the attorneys, both law firms.
Sure.
And it's so unfortunate because it was like 2 weeks after the board finalized the budget, and Mike Hattie said he was going to sue the board. Dave Domas actually reached out to him one-on-one and said, "Look, can we meet and talk about this?" And his response was, "Talk to our lawyer." So at that point, we of course went out and saw our legal counsel.
Sure.
And then we received a letter from the court's legal counsel.
Is this allowed to be talked about?
It is, yeah, it is, because it's public record. It's public record.
It's the wife of the attorney and me. I got Jay in my ear for 30, 40, almost 40 years telling me don't talk about stuff.
So which is why it's so hard to imagine and believe why local media outlets, in particular the Livingston Post, got the story so wrong, because it's all public record. It's very black and white, and it's right there on paper. And in summary, the lawsuit that they filed claimed that they wanted over $500,000. They wanted us to add $500,000 back to their budget. Well, at the end of the day,
despite they only wanted $200,000.
Despite that they only wanted $200,000. So, unfortunately, I think it was Maria Stewart who, in my opinion, is a sad excuse of a journalist, if you can even call her a journalist.
Okay, move on from there. We don't want to go there. Go ahead.
But nevertheless, she made some remark in an article saying that after $300,000 in legal expenses, the courts got everything they want. Well, that's simply not true, because the public record of the settlement agreement says that essentially at the end of the day, after $300,000 in legal expenses, when the courts originally wanted about $500,000 added to their budget, all we did is provide them with we provided them with an additional $30,000 from what their original budget was. And so we were actually almost spot on with the projection, the forecasted projection of how much money they needed for the fiscal year. And we still haven't confirmed if they actually even needed that additional $30,000. So we saved, instead of handing over $500,000, we provide them with the $30,000 to finish up the year.
Okay. So let me ask you this: this was settled then with the new Chief Judge McGivney?
It was.
Okay.
We were able. So Hattie resigned in I think it was March or so.
Right.
And Judge McGivney took over as Chief Judge, and he's really been a pleasure to work with.
Okay.
Judge McGivney, Judge Bain, they've really been a pleasure to work with, and we do look forward to their relationship with the courts as we proceed forward.
And that's probably the last question I want to ask on this is. The perception is that there's this big war between you guys and the courts. Is that it sounds like you and the chief judge and you and the other judges have just a fine relationship from what you just said.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Between the current sitting judges and the current board, it's a strong working relationship.
So Judge Hattie's always been a pleasure to be around, for many, many years. I always got a kick out of him. And he could make me laugh. And so on the way out, he wanted to leave them with a parting gift, okay, and maybe was a little overzealous. Okay, we'll just write it off at that. But I don't feel like he did something terrible by trying to do that. I just feel like however the story that got out, that however it was and whoever it was, I don't like to call out anybody to doing that, but how the rumors, and I'm not even talking about any other media outlet, I'm talking about just the Facebook gossip and whatnot, about this bad, and also I've heard it at your commission meetings, and it's usually by those on the other side of the aisle, and they go after, and you're screwing heck, and it wasn't, if I remember correctly, during the elections, it was the challengers. The Republican challengers primary, they were standing up and the challengers' husband and dad, and they were just yelling about, how you screwed the courts over. And I didn't think so. So we got one more comment here. Thank you, Commissioner Nick, for your transparency in the lawsuit that many have reported false information. Yes, we do appreciate this. We appreciate, and that's the purpose of this entire podcast, is to be able to offer these explanations that that coming straight from the source and not filtered through different political ideologies that will certainly send a different spin on things. Because like I said, what you just said, it was reasonable, logical of everybody concerned, and that's not at all how it was portrayed for that. So all right, well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to have with us Appropriations Chair, State Representative Ann Bollin. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
John Adams warned that the Constitution is wholly inadequate without a moral and religious people. As conservatives, we must reclaim the faith that shaped it, rooted in Jesus Christ and the Bible. To help you understand the historic Christianity that our country was founded on, check out theexaltedchrist.com, a resource website proclaiming Christ as King.
Can we put this
this whole town could be read by the end of the day. If you feel alright, we can throw it and drive with the radio.
Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning is a fantastic new blend of herbs and vegetables made in Livingston County. Add a tablespoon to homemade breads, soups, stews, meat, poultry, vegetables, casseroles, sauces, and more. To order, email Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning at gmail.com or message the Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning Facebook page. It's time to divorce your Marry Me Chicken and take advantage of free delivery in and around Livingston County. Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning, the only
we're back. As promised, we have delivered a very special guest with us, State Representative Ann Bollin, who is going to talk to us about a whole bunch of numbers, and hopefully we'll get her to talk a little bit about some legislation if she's here. So welcome, Representative Bollin. Thanks for coming on. So you're a very busy woman in charge of the entire House budget. So what highlights can you give us over there?
Well, first of all, I should talk about where we've come from and where we're at.
Okay.
So one of the things, when the Republicans left majority in the State House and the State Senate in 2022, we left a $9 billion surplus on the balance sheet.
Okay.
And I was appointed. Now here we had 2 years under a Democrat trifecta. Fortunately, the Republicans were able to take the House majority in the Michigan State House, the only chamber in the nation to turn over parties. And we're back in charge of the House budget, as you mentioned. And so my job is to negotiate a fiscally sustainable and responsible budget on behalf of the taxpayers in the state of Michigan. So we are taking a very different approach this year, and that is that we are not starting from the executive or the governor's recommendation that came out in February. We're actually starting from a different base. So we've asked all of our subcommittee chairs to go back and look at what is constitutionally required, statutorily required, court ordered, what is a priority, and what is a preference. And that includes programs and dollars. And, our goal is obviously to reduce the state budget, which is really, it's mushroomed into an $83 billion budget. My first year, 2019, we had a $60 billion budget. So that's just in 6 years that it's ballooned so much.
Wow. I'm having a hard time writing that. Wow, that's a big increase. That's a big increase. So what highlights about the upcoming budget? What are you? I have a question to ask you, but go ahead and tell us whatever highlights you got.
So first of all, I introduced a resolution sponsored, became a House rule, and that is on earmarks or pork.
Okay.
And we saw billions of dollars in pork giving out these special projects, and it's not to say that some of these projects weren't worthy of government funding. But they were negotiated in the dark of the night by very few people. And so I introduced, and it was adopted unanimously in the Michigan House of Representatives, that all earmarks have to be posted on a state website, available 7 days before we're going to adopt any budget. And it includes what the request is for, a definition of and description of a project, and why it is a good use of taxpayers' dollars along with the amount that's requested.
Oh, good.
Yes, and so
that's unheard of.
Yes, so this is Turn Lansing upside down, and they do something similar in Washington, but it's different. It's never made public, and in Washington, they give each representative a bucket of money, if you will. Okay. We are not committing to giving any representative any bucket of money. Honestly, when we find $3.1 billion for roads, and we've reversed the Democratic income tax hike, we're likely not to have any extra spending money because our goal is also to cut the budget, to prioritize and give taxpayers good value for their tax dollars.
Well, that's an awesome change. That is a serious, look at us dojing over here. So
well, let me talk about both.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what would be great is also the income tax, the state income tax. The House just voted on.
Yeah, to lower the reverse income tax.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and so we have made a great effort this term to look at House ethics, accountability, and transparency. And we have posters around town about heat because we're a great effort on oversight and ethics. And I keep telling the speaker, well, now I'm going to beat the heat with my own Bosch. And so either we can look at budget oversight, accountability, and transparency or efficiency, or it's the Bollin overhaul of government expenditures. And so that's my very own Bosch. The caucus is on board with it.
Oh, good. Awesome. All right, so we have some comments here. Let's see. We have Prosecutor Carolyn Henry. Thank you, Commissioner Fiani and Representative Bollin for presenting. I'm trying to multitask by listening and attending another board meeting. Oh, garbage. Ours is better. Okay, so I do have a question. I was sent this question to ask you. Apparently, there's a current plan to raise $3 billion by removing sales and use tax at the pump. and then replacing it with a 20% increase in fuel tax. Can you, is that a Republican thing? Is that a Senate thing, or?
No, that is House Republican presented a roads plan. If you
Okay.
remember when the governor came into office, she promised she would fix the damn roads.
40 cents.
Yes, her first day of the state was a 46-cent gas hike.
Right.
Here we are 6 years later. There is no plan to fix the damn roads from the governor, other than her very first year, she did authorize, which she had the authority to do, the sale of $3 billion worth of bonds. After we get done paying, it will cost us $2.5 billion for that $3.5 billion. And we are committed to not going in further debt. But the Republicans did present a roads plan, and what it is revenue neutral, and the schools will remain untouched. They will, we'll meet our obligations with the school funding through the collection of our sales tax. But at the pump, right now you pay sales tax on the excise tax. And so that sales tax will no longer be, that is going to be converted to a fuel tax. And that will help us get to our $3.1 billion mark for the roads. It also would get rid of the mega credits, which were tax credits that there are about 11 or 12 very large firms, including GM, that have these tax credits, and they would move to a corporate income tax. The corporate income tax is something that, as we collect that in the state, money will be restricted to go towards the roads.
Well, let me ask you a question about, that's a lot for the non-budget minded. I know Nick is nodding along with you. He understood every word you said. So let's get down to the nitty and the gritty about what you just said about the pump. Is our gas price going up or down or staying the same?
Your gas at the pump will remain the same.
Okay.
Nothing changes. It's revenue neutral.
All right. For the individual that texted me in a panic about that stuff, there's your answer.
Revenue neutral.
Revenue neutral. Just taking it from here and putting it in from here, but it'll go toward the roads instead of towards something else.
And the money is going to filter down. So we've seen great investments in the highways, but not in the byways and driveways. So this money will come to our local bridges and our local roads.
Okay. Okay. So so what other legislation? You had some other legislation coming.
Yes. So I have a couple of things that I've been working on.
Okay.
And a couple of them actually are constitutional amendments in the form of joint resolutions. And one of them would require 2/3 vote during lame duck. Another one would dock legislators' pay if they don't show up for work. I don't think we should get a paycheck unless we're showing up for work.
All right.
Another one would eliminate the State Board of Education. And
holy cow!
Sign me up.
I'm a co-sponsor on the resolution that Representative Posthumus is bringing forward.
Oh, good.
And I will be working on legislation with that for only U.S. citizens vote. I'm on a national group that has long been pushing that and working on the SAVE Act. And then I have some legislation that would require election audit of our voter rolls.
Okay.
Some property tax reform, making sure corporate welfare and clawback money. Now the legislature appropriates that goes to MEDC. These projects go defunct, and we don't get our money back. It's left in the MEDC to squander, devote to their priorities.
Well, that would be, knowing what I know about a legislator's schedule, that would be a very small portion of exactly what she does. So anybody out there that thinks that the legislature could go part-time and have everything work out fine, just take a listen to that. So let's back up a second to some of the stuff you've got going, because I think a lot of people don't understand. So let's start with lame duck. Explain lame duck to someone who's not in that. I think that's a common term that people that work there understand, but I think a lot of people don't. So
all right. So lame duck is the period after the general election until sine die or the end of the term, the end of session.
Okay.
And so in this case, we had the election in November, and it was that time through December 31st, roughly, or sine die. And what can happen is things get pushed through that normally would not get pushed through if especially people that are running for election or re-election. All right, people don't want to take a position on things, and so they wait until after the election, so they're not going to get rebuffed on it, called into question. It's a terrible way to establish policy or implement policy, in my opinion. And I don't think that we should eliminate the lame duck period, because there are instances where you would want your legislature meeting and making the decisions. You do not want to have and give a governor that authority and that time, basically, to ignore the legislative branch.
Okay, just to paraphrase then. So you had the Democrats in charge of the House, the Senate, and the governor last year. When the House lost their Democrat majority in November, the new Republicans wouldn't start until January. So between the November election and the end of the year, whatever that day is, they know they're not going to get anything passed, or they're not going to get their big legislation passed. The stuff that Republicans are absolutely opposed to. So they have to hurry up and get that passed, and they do it very quickly. And here's the problem with that from the layman's standpoint is, most of the time a bill is brought up, it goes to a committee, the committee debates it for a while, then it either goes or doesn't pass out of committee, then it goes on the floor, it's debated there for a while, and then it goes to the other chamber, debated in a committee again, then goes to the floor, and it can fail at any given time because constituents come up or they learn things about it, the stakeholders have a voice, but it can die anywhere along. When you do lame duck, it is a short little period, and they jam it through. Right through committee, no due diligence, no examination, no testimony. Yeah. Generally, it just put it up there, vote, moving on. Get it on the floor, vet it out, get it to get to the other chamber. And that's what the danger of lame duck. So having a legislation that restricts that somehow that's just great for it's great for Michigan. It's great for everybody.
It is a much higher threshold, yes. The 2/3 instead of just 50% plus one.
Right.
And that's important.
So that means if you're, like you said, if there's something that is important and it's agreeable, it will still get passed, but it won't be one political party jamming the other because they know they're not going to have another opportunity for 2 more years minimum. So that's good. So all right, talk about. Let's see, we got Stacy Kelly Powell chimed in. Go Bode. Thanks, Kelly.
I like her scissors.
Yeah, I love it. Stacey Rutledge, nice. And then we've got Sharon Lalio, property tax reform, yay. So, okay. And then we got Jay here that says, what, if I can show it, what happened to the 9 or so bills the Dems failed to deliver to the governor by the deadline? We talked about that once at a DC member meeting, so update everybody.
All right, so the 9 bills were not presented by the former Speaker of the House. They were the responsibility of the previous legislature.
Right.
And
they dropped a big old ball there.
Yep. And the fact that they weren't presented then fell on the laps of our current Speaker. It really didn't fall, but the Senate did think that did. And so the Senate sued the House, and it went to court. It's currently continues to be in litigation. I mean, the judge ruled that basically a legislature has the obligation to present the bills to the governor, but didn't order us to present the bills to the governor.
Okay.
And so we are continuing with our legislative review. We have great general counsel in Andrew Fink.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Also, we hired outside counsel who normally works on a lot of cases presented by the Democrats. And so we know we have a very valid case.
Okay.
And, just need to do your job within your time frame is the lesson here. And, I don't know why they weren't presented. That's a question for the former Speaker.
Oh yeah, well, it's who cares? it's not the stuff we want, that's for sure. So they dropped a ball. Good. That was a little bit of luck. I mean, I think they did enough damage in the last 2 years that those last 9 they could. I mean, that gives us just a little bit of a win for those 2 years, right?
Yes.
So so what challenges do you have as far as the budget right now? What you're ironing things out, and you're coming from. This is interesting. I've never done it. I've worked on the budget many years, and
well, it is very unconventional. Our approach is very unconventional. And the other thing I do want to add about the earmarks is that they have to be posted on the site. You can start following them. There is, if you go to the Michigan Legislature website, the second tab over, financials, there's a drop down, and you can read every representative that's put forth a project so far, and see what people are looking for. I mean, my job is that one, I want to make sure that what we are presenting to the chamber is going to be fiscally sustainable and responsible. And again, working back from the bottom up, not the top down. But we have some challenges. Number one, our caucus is absolutely committed. We adopted a mission for Michigan. That's our strategy, our platform, if you will, for the next 2 years. We won't accomplish it, but we're laying the groundwork to take back our own Republican trifecta come 2026. And working towards that goal. And we also have to be aware of what's going on at the federal level, right? So many of our funds are restricted and they come here. No, I don't expect Medicare, Medicaid to be cut.
No,
this is just, they're going to be restructured, reshuffled a little bit in looking at programs that are duplicative, heavy in administration, wherever the federal government, can send it back to the state is much better, right? But my goal is we're going to find that $3.1 billion worth of money to be able to fund the roads.
Sure.
I do think that we have a lot of room within the budget to be where it's going to be difficult. It's going to be clunky. But we're going to meet our commitment to do that and bring that budget back in line where it really should be. And one of the things that I've noticed is, you always hear about that not in my backyard, especially when it comes to corporate welfare. But what I have to remind our caucus members and say is now it's in my backyard and people think it's okay. And so I have to always say, not in my backyard, but now it is in my backyard. Their nose, right? Based on principle.
Yes. So let's talk for a minute. This is you said something that got real juicy. It woke Nick up. Let's talk. What does it look like? Get rid of the state. So we're gonna have. We had Tom McMillan on the show a few weeks ago. We talked about what it would look like if the federal agency disbanded or was seriously reduced and the power came to the state. Now, my question to him was the same thing now is, I don't necessarily know. I mean, you think overall that'd be a great thing, right? Put it back in the states, and that's when it used to do well. But Michigan has they have a very liberal, so I don't know that it would be any better if we put it in our state.
No, that's why I am a very strong advocate. I have been, I sponsored the resolution last term. I was a co-sponsor on my first 2 terms, and I'm going to continue to champion this. We need to eliminate the elected state board of ed. Some people think, oh, you're taking my right away to vote, but no. Michigan is failing our kids, and it has been going on for many, many years. And I believe the only way we're going to get more accountability and really influence the change is to have and hold a governor accountable. Every 4 years. We have that ability to do that. I think the superintendent should be appointed by the governor, any governor. They change. And if we did that, I think we'll see a much quicker path back to our kids reading again, our kids showing up in school.
Are they appointed now by the governor, or is that by
No,
is it
they're
appointed by the board? Very much like a school.
And we do have 2 excellent representatives in Snyder and Tom McMillan. But unfortunately, we've never had the majority in many, many years. And with only 2 people on the board, they're always overrun.
Sure.
It's the least transparent department. It needs to change. And so we're looking for willing partners to help us advance that.
Well, we need to, for anybody here that's thinking that we don't need you next year to make some big changes, we have to take majority for that to happen. If we could get majority, then that would be huge. So yeah. So then riddle me this, wizard. Who would run it? I mean, yes, but so the money would come to the state, and then the governor would just assign it.
So the money would come to the state. The legislature would still do their job in appropriating money. For the department, but it would be a department like any other department under a governor, right? And it is the only department, state government, a governor does not appoint. And so we have my leap. The governor did kind of start moving in this direction by pulling stuff out of the Michigan Department of Education and bringing it back under a department for her. And that was a good move. Some people don't like that. They think it's another department, but it really is just they move the dollars around, which is what we would see exactly with the federal government eliminating the department. They'd come to the state, and then we would execute a much better and more robust education plan, I believe.
And the current State Board of Education really doesn't direct or dictate how funding is expended or dispersed currently, does it?
No, there's no accountability. We appropriate the money, and basically the superintendent decides what they can do.
So would the legislature then put in some, I don't know, I call them, I guess, bumper guards, would they put them some lane
Guardrails.
lane definition on, so that, no matter what governor you had, you weren't able to go off the rails one way or the other, that, if you had a department, would there be some, I guess, guiding statute that would make them stay here or here?
Yes, so we would establish the department, we would give it the guardrails or what their mission is, all right, and then appropriate the money. We have the ability to put in statute certain things. For example, the third grade reading used to be in statute, and that was overturned in the trifecta last year. Put that back. We added phonics, which was bipartisan. We did get that to start teaching phonics again. But we also have something called boilerplate, which is the narrative of a budget, and we can put in guardrails there, certain reporting requirements, etc.
Good.
We also have a new committee this year, and that's called the Rules Committee. So any legislation that requires rules to be promulgated by a department, that legislation goes to the Rules Committee, where the Rules Committee puts on bumper guards, if you will, of what can be in those rules. So right now, when we say promulgate the rules, there are no guardrails, and the department goes forth and promulgates the rules, and they can change them. It's very difficult to head off the rules process through the Administrative Procedures Act. So this Rules Committee helps with that, and I think we will continue with that should we regain majority next year.
And I'll tell you, I think every single episode I've had, didn't matter what topic we're talking about, we somehow get here. And where we are here is the argument, this is a logical thing. Nobody should be against this. Nobody. It is, whatever we're doing now is failing. Nobody can argue that you ever watch those bar rescue or restaurant rescue or whatever, where they come in and this failing, and they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, they've lost all this stuff, they've no customers, it's dirty, they're failing this, and they fight the guy who's trying to make it better. They argue. I used to think that was all made up, it's acting. And then, a big part of my adult life was change, and I've taken over, gone in and taken over like failing coffee shops and things like that and turned them around, and I get the same thing. They're arguing. No, we don't. We always done it that way. Well, you lost money. You're breaking. You're going broke. So this is just so. And we talk about the other side, the opponents of this legislation, just like Doge. It's they fight to keep the failure in place. So this is even worse than this is even worse than arguing whether or not money is getting spent honestly or going to Afghanistan for gender studies. This is kids, and we're failing them. Our grades are terrible. There's data to back this. And if you go to, I was on a school board. I was the president of the House School Board, and I remember when the grades came in and everything. What we would say, what's going on here? Why are these grades? Well, we don't feel supported. And Nick was on the school board.
Yeah.
We don't feel. Am I saying anything familiar to you? It's a different school board. We don't feel supported. The morale is down. So we gave you more money, then suddenly these grades would go up. Is that what you're telling us? And in effect, that's what they were telling us. So it's like the arguments against this. What we're doing is not working. So they're going to fight you on this. I'm assuming they're fighting you on this. Correct? You are getting fought.
Yes. And if people don't like it, what are you trying to do? You don't care about the kids, you don't care about the teachers. No, I do care about the kids, and I do care about the teachers. I want the teachers to be able to teach, and I want the kids to be able to learn. I want the parents to make the decisions on how best to educate their children and to understand what's going on in the schools. And it really is, it's common sense to me, and it should be the least common denominator amongst all of us.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's the most contentious.
It is, and it should be outside the area of politics because it's kids.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate. And here's the thing. This is what I don't. They're going to come out. The unions, they're going to come out after this. It's going to be horrible. We don't. You're right. You don't care about kids. And if you think about it, if they eliminated the federal department, if they cut back on this one, there's going to be more money for education. So they would end up in a better spot if they just got on board a little bit here. But the arguments, and this is, we've talked about this. It doesn't matter what the subject's been. The arguments against the logical stuff that the Republicans are trying to reform are absolutely ludicrous. They're very rarely relevant to whatever it is you're talking. Oh, we don't want kids getting sexually graphic books. Oh, you're homophobic. That's the problem. You want to ban books. No, we just don't want them to have access to them. It's the ludicrous stuff. And I love the the Louisiana, John Kennedy, the Louisiana legislator that says the Republicans got the best strategy in the world to beat the Dems. It's called Operation Let Them Speak. It's just crazy stuff. So, all right, anybody have a question for Representative Bollin? Because we're gonna break here real quick, and in a little bit, we're gonna bring in Congressman Barrett as promised. So, if anybody has any questions, you might want to text it in now. We have. So you are always involved in elections too.
Yes.
So have you got anything going there? I think you mentioned an election bill.
I have a lot. I feel very strongly about making sure that we have regular audits of our voter roll. Number one. Number two is I think we need to properly fund early voting. I don't want third-party money, third-party interference. So I'm looking for a solution on that, a permanent solution.
Okay.
I do want to get the state out of ERIC, which is the Electronic Registration Information System. And then I'm very active nationally on the Only Citizens Vote Coalition, Center for Election Integrity, quite a few. But upcoming, you mentioned ranked choice voting. We need to make sure, the common goal again is that every eligible voter can vote freely, secretly, independently, and securely.
Right.
That shouldn't be debated. We aren't trying to do things to oppress anybody from voting or make it more difficult. But, we need to be very mindful and be truthful with people, right? And that's not what happened with our proposal. The constitutional amendments in the last, couple of election cycles. Number one, the one with early voting, the photo ID. So that's why we're bringing back this House Joint Resolution B. And that would require only citizens to vote in the photo ID. And basically, it would be a systematic process to constantly be checking our voter rolls for that.
I'm looking forward to the Thursday's EC meeting where Representative Posthumus is coming to explain that to everybody. So, Rob Rodriguez, Rob and Anna Maria, how can we best support our Republican public servants? That's a good question.
That is an excellent question. Very, very much appreciated. We do need people out there to be our ambassadors to, if you have a question, ask us so you can go out. If you need more information, of course, we have Facebook pages, we have e-newsletters you can subscribe to, our state websites. Share anything, any content that we put in social media if you see us with a press release. But please always ask if you have a question. I'm always willing to explain my votes. And also, if you see a problem or a solution for something, come forward and tell us. The people experiencing the problem are the best ones to find the solution, not some bureaucrat in Lansing or some elected sitting in Lansing or Washington.
All right. Okay, well, one last question here. Or a statement. We have Brandon Bearfield. Thank you, Nick and Ann, two incredible leaders who are working hard for our residents. That is absolute truth, sir. Amen to that. So thank you, Representative Bollin, for coming on and talking about this. This has been, as you see, we're getting a lot of questions here, and don't be surprised if we get a lot of people watching it after that aren't watching it live. They'll watch it tomorrow, they'll watch it tonight, whatever. And is there a place that people can email you or contact you for questions? What's your,
Yes, absolutely. So Ann Bollin, ANNBOLLIN @house.mi.gov. And then State Representative Ann Bollin is my Facebook. You can do that.
Okay.
And our phone number, office phone number is 517-373-7515. And, we do still get calls. And please be kind to the voice on the other side of the phone. But always happy to hear from people and get your input.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. We're gonna break here, and we're gonna dig out. We're gonna send Congressman Barrett a link, and we're gonna get him on with you. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
The Exalted Christ Ministry offers resources to help you understand historic Christianity. Visit theexaltedchrist.com for articles, podcasts, and a video series exploring scripture and key historical topics. Get free resources today at www.theexaltedchrist.com.
Back to Tyler.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have this running. I gotta run to the bathroom.
Hey, what do you say? This whole town could be red by the end of the day. If you feel alright, we could throw it and drive.
Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning is a fantastic new blend of herbs and vegetables made in Livingston County. Add a tablespoon to homemade breads, soups, stews, meat, poultry, vegetables, casseroles, sauces, and more. To order, email Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning at gmail.com or message the Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning Facebook page. It's time to divorce you or marry me chicken and take advantage of free delivery in and around Livingston County. Bunny's Fabulous Seasoning, the only seasoning you need.
Congressman Barrett, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We know you got a tight schedule there. We had a little bit of a technicality and we couldn't get that link to you, so we're trying as much as we can. So tell us I'll get right down to it if that's okay. We'll skip all the pleasantries. We have some questions for you. Well, first of all, welcome and thanks for coming. We've had a really great show here tonight. You're a freshman subcommittee chair of the Veteran Association subcommittee, correct?
Yeah, so I'm the subcommittee chairman for the Technology and Modernization Subcommittee on the VA committee here in the House, and kind of gives me
Okay.
the opportunity to help steer some of the policy that we make in Washington, also provide some of the oversight over the Department of Veteran Affairs. Really, the biggest issue we're looking at right now is the new electronic health record system that the VA is supposed to implement. It's been a disaster, starting out several years ago when it was first rolled out. They since put a pause in the program, and now they are getting ready to bring it back to more facilities. We just had the Secretary of the VA, Doug Collins, in Michigan on Monday. Was glad to see him in my district. We went to two different VA facilities, one in Battle Creek and the other one in Ann Arbor, which are the two that most of my constituents travel to for their VA care. And really was meeting with different staff members there, looking at the different application issues that they're going to have and how we can make sure that when we roll this out, veteran healthcare is something that we will be able to deliver in a really timely and efficient manner.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what bills you got? You got veteran bills out, legislation going?
Yeah, I've introduced a number of different bills, but two that I'm working on closely that we're hoping to get some traction on soon. One will really correct an issue within statute right now for veterans who need assistance mobility devices for their vehicles so that they can use their vehicles in a way that allows them to have that assistance, mobility assistance done and modifications done to them. There was a issue in statute that didn't allow the VA to really apply that in the best way possible with all of the medically necessary changes and modifications that would need to be done to a particular veteran's vehicle. It also, under a legacy program, a veteran was only able to have one of these vehicles for their lifetime. Of course, many vehicles, they last 10, maybe 15 years. And of course, many veterans, we want to live far longer than that. So we want to be able to give them vehicles that allow them mobility throughout their life. And then the other bill I have is the Clear Communication for Veterans Claims Act. That will really cut down on a lot of the confusing, letters and memos and other things that veterans get as they file claims and move through the claims process. A lot of veterans, and I've spoken to many of them, you've probably met some yourself, that just give up on their claims because of the confusing letters that they get. They're not sure of the process. They use a lot of legal language or statutory references that are kind of lost on people that aren't using, a legal dictionary and a statutory reference guide. And we just want to make it easier for veterans to be able to access their benefits. And that's really what the intent behind that bill is.
Okay, great. And as a mother of a now recently retired 20-year veteran, I appreciate all that you do for that.
Thank you.
Our district is absolutely in love with you. We came out big for you. We're going to come out big for you again. We just appreciate everything you do. Now you're getting some hate from the other side over here. You're getting a little bit of heat over here. So this is the opportunity to talk about what's really going on here. You're getting a little heat because you're afraid of all the Democrats and you won't hold a town hall. Ha ha ha. So can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Sure. I'm not somebody who goes out getting intimidated by people who disagree with me. But we have seen these people protesting, and you've seen throughout the country people shutting down and disrupting town halls and political discussions and engagements throughout the country. Look, my office has already responded to over 20,000 constituent inquiries across all different types of platforms, whether that's phone calls, emails, social media, other direct inquiry, direct mail, and all kinds of other methods that people have contacted us through. We hosted an interactive town hall with almost 2,000 people from my district participating. And that's something that we're going to continue to do. But we're not just going to jump into the ability for these groups like Indivisible or other groups that are often funded by left-wing organizations to just set up a disruptive opportunity to try and really derail meaningful conversation with people. I know that not everyone's going to agree with every decision I make as a member of Congress, and I don't expect everybody to agree with me. That's part of the political system that we have, but it doesn't mean that we're going to allow people a platform to really be disruptive or unproductive in the things that they're trying to do. And again, you have to look no further than every example of this around the country of them really organizing to try and shut down events and not have meaningful conversations.
Right, right. And it's not like you're not responding to constituents. 20,000 is a pretty good sized number for
Sure.
this for just a few months in office. So
yeah. And I'm home nearly every single week, for several different days around the legislative schedule in Washington, D.C., and I'm out at events. I've done over 100 visits while I've been in my district, just in the couple of months that I've been in office. And, that's something I'm going to continue to be active in, because I do think that representing my district is an important responsibility. I have to represent my district in Washington, D.C., not be Washington's representative back in my district. And I take that very seriously. And I take seriously the values and vantage points and positions of people that sent me here to Washington, D.C. And I definitely don't lose sight of that.
Awesome. So for the constituents that do need to reach out to you, is there a particular email or number or a place that they can, you want to give us some information here?
If you go to barrett.house.gov, you can go right to my website. It has how to get a hold of me in Washington, D.C., how to get a hold of my district office team. If you have a constituent issues dealing with federal government agencies, reach out to us. We're here to help. This is part of the job that I have as a member of Congress, and it's something, again, that I do take very seriously. We also have our office right across the street from the state capitol building, across from Heritage Hall. We wanted to make it centrally located within, kind of the center point of this district where, the vast majority of people have the easiest way of accessing. And we're going to look at exploring opportunities to take on a rotational basis, bring my district staff out and around throughout the district. We've already done a little bit of that already. Look forward to having more opportunities so people who don't have the opportunity to drive to Lansing will still be able to interact directly where they need to. And, it's a big part of representing a district is representing the constituents really in a non-political way as they're dealing with challenges with the IRS. If, your passport is expired and you need to travel to visit family, if you have challenges with the Department of Veteran Affairs. All of these things are ways that we can help navigate the federal government for constituents in the district.
Yes, and that's good, because I know you're reachable. I see you everywhere, and so any kind of nonsense that is said, you don't meet with constituents, you ignore your constituents. We knew, but the reason this podcast exists is to allow. Republicans to get the truth out and to tell exactly what's going on. So this is the place. And people will watch this and rewatch this. Pardon me?
I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to show up here. We got a question here about a couple stuck in Mexico. You got an update on that?
Yeah, that's something I'm working very diligently on. Of course, we have this case of this couple that traveled to Mexico and were detained by Mexican authorities. They've now been in this maximum security prison in Mexico for almost 4 weeks now. I've had multiple conversations with the State Department as recently as a couple of hours ago, been in continuous discussions with the family as well, and working as hard as we can to get them out of that prison and ultimately repatriated back to the United States. Any American that is stuck in that type of situation abroad for what ultimately amounts to a contract in contractual dispute over a timeshare agreement should not see themselves suffering away in a maximum security Mexican prison. That's not a fair way to handle that situation.
Yeah, that's overkill. Our relations federally straining, I mean, maybe tariffs, is that all playing into this too? Is this maybe a little bit of slap America around for the wall or whatnot?
I haven't seen any evidence that this is being done out of response to any broad-based federal policy, whether that's immigration or tariffs or anything like that. It sounds like this is a dispute with the resort that is involved in this, and the couple who were in a timeshare arrangement. They disputed that. They found that the agreement wasn't in keeping with their expectations, and I'm not familiar with the exact merits of the challenges back and forth, but they did dispute the charges. American Express, their credit card company, found in their favor, and then when they next traveled to Mexico, they were arrested by authorities there under the allegation that they had defrauded the resort. So it's like
Oh,
a
no.
back and forth dispute there. Now, whatever the outcome of that finding is, in our country, when we have contractual disputes, we don't throw one party in maximum security prison. That's not how we
No.
handle those things. And we shouldn't see our American citizens who are traveling abroad fall under that either. So it's a big priority for me to make sure that we move in the clearest direction possible to get them out of that maximum security prison. It's something that's a big priority for me. I brought it up to not just the State Department, to the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He brought it personally to the Mexican ambassador. So we are working every single channel available to us to make sure that we can return them home as safely and quickly as possible.
Well, it's not good that they're there, but it is good that it seems to be an isolated situation that's fully dependent on the interactions that they've had and not some sort of bigger part. I mean, that's again, the rumors fly and the silly accusations fly, and that was one of the silly accusations I heard. So I'm glad you're able to put that one to bed. So, well, I know you're on a tight schedule, and you are an automatic acceptance here. If anything goes on, every Tuesday we're here. All you need to do is let us know. I need to be on. I need to make an announcement, and we'll click you in right away. Now that we've worked out our bugs and we figured out how to get you here. So, thank you so much for your time, and keep doing all the great things you're doing. You're gonna hang up, and there's gonna be 100 statements here about how awesome you are. So watch the rerun.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Nick. Chair, thank you so much. Really appreciate you both. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, here we are back with us again. So we got some comments here. Karen has come in Indivisible's plan because they're a bunch of losers is obstruct, delay, block. They pass out signs at Dingle's Town Hall, for example. It's their game plan. Go after socials and block the normal line of communications. Karen, I agree with you. Then we have Rob and Anna Maria. Dems want town hall so they can grandstand. We need to stay on offense and let them continue to redefine their narratives in their own time. Well, those narratives right now are just about as silly as I've ever heard. I think I asked, they're telling us I was in a debate with somebody and it came out just the nonsense I'm hearing. And I finally just kind of said, do you believe in the tooth fairy too? It is so ridiculous. The arguments, they don't have logic. So they try to create a situation that doesn't exist. So that gives them some sort of false moral high ground. And and every time I get into this kind of discussion with somebody, it gets so ridiculous. I just look at them and say, do you realize every time you speak like that, you send another independent voter over to the Republican side? So by all means, thank you for President Trump, by the way. So that's what's going on there. So what do you think, Nick? What else is going on in the world that we need to report to everybody?
Well, I'll take this opportunity to share my thoughts on something that the county Board of Commissioners is taken very seriously, and that's the issue of local control regarding the solar farms and windmill farms and solar panels and so forth. It's mind-blowing that the state of Michigan, the governor, thinks that she can basically dictate what is constructed within our own backyard.
Yeah, she's completely removed, or I should say they completely removed local zoning control. And that is not how we were supposed to be set up.
No, I am so proud of the Livingston County Board of Commissioners. A couple weeks ago, I presented and sponsored a resolution that expressed the Board of Commissioners' support for the municipalities who have filed a lawsuit expressing that they believe it's illegal for the state to dictate the local ordinances, the local zoning laws.
Right.
And again, the Board of Commissioners firmly believes in local control, and it certainly stands behind our local municipalities and the other, I believe it's up to 40 some municipalities that have joined in this lawsuit. We certainly recognize all the dangers that a community can experience from having this type of development take place. And it's just astonishing my response is, if Gretchen Whitmer wants solar panels so much, go put them, in her backyard. Go put them, on her front lawn. Why does she think she has the authority to dictate what we do here in Livingston County? It's a tragic situation. We certainly stand with all the residents, not only here in Livingston County, but throughout the state, who are opposing this.
We had here a few episodes ago, maybe a month ago now, we had Mark Fosdick from Cohocton Township Supervisor and Kelly Ralco, who is very, very well informed on this. And I sat between those two as they're talking, and I looked like I was watching a tennis match, just walking back and forth. And they really educated everyone on how bad it is. It as you said, it is way overreach. It's not like they're overruling. It's not just setting the ordinances. They're overruling the local ordinances. They're already in place, and they're tying their hands and taking away the ability for the people who own the land and live there and live with what's going on to say, no, we don't want it. They're being forced to accept if the land gets bought and gets sold, they're forced. Yeah. And Mark was talking about, Mark and Kelly shared the plight of a family that owned a house that was going to be surrounded all three sides with only the road as the open territory. And I don't know if it was across the street or not, but how bad would that screw somebody up to have a house on some property out in the middle of a rural area, thinking this is exactly what you want. You want land, you want to look around, you don't want to see billboards and wires and all kinds of stuff. And then, hundreds and hundreds of these solar things going to be around you on all three sides, on either side of you and behind. What does that do to her property value?
Oh, it
tanks it.
Yes, yeah.
Nobody will buy it.
It's criminal.
It is
criminal.
That's a good way of saying it. It is criminal because these people invested in good faith in something like that. Now there's acts of God, tornadoes and things that happen, but wow! I know last night or 2 nights ago we had the tornado that went through Cohocton and Conway Township there in Cohocton, and I thought to myself, well, it's too bad those solar farms weren't up there. Just wipe them right out. Goodbye. God has spoken.
Well, I think the company who is looking to develop the solar farms here in the county, I think the name is Headlands or Heedlands or something. But I challenge them. I invite them. They know how to get in touch with me. I challenge them to have a discussion about this because we don't want you here. I mean, there's no question about it. We don't want you here. You're not welcome here. And I certainly challenge you at any time to have this live discussion. Or
we'll welcome them on the pod. We'll welcome both of you on the podcast if you want to have that discussion here. We'll bring them right in, and if they accept that challenge and they want to come on the podcast and have a good old debate about why this is important or what the pluses and the minuses are, we'll do that. Kelly Paulus, that's fantastic news, Nick. They are obviously looking for small towns for those solar things to stick. So that is correct. So yeah, it is. It's a scary thing. I live in the city of Howell, so I'm not in that kind of danger. But you don't object to the concept of them. You get on the Michigan State, you get on Hagedorn down there by Jolly. There's I think it's Hagedorn has like a public parking lot, and it looks like a roof of them, but the roofs over the cars are the solar panels. And to me, that is the best use. If you can get something, they're not in farmland where they're toxic and they bleed into people's wells and things, but they're over an asphalt parking lot, and it shelters the shelters it from the sun, it shades it from the rain, from the elements, and then at the same time it provides electricity. That is, I think, where they belong, right? That's where they should go. And I don't even like the idea that they're allowed on farmland if the farmer wants to sell, and if the township, for example, wants to approve them, the zoning, that they're okay with it. That bothers me because they're such bad news as far as they break and they're toxic and they're not recyclable and they go bad, and suddenly the company goes, well, we're going bankrupt. Your problem now. And now it becomes the township's issue. And yes, you can take them to court. Good luck. Bankruptcy is not easy to penetrate. So, and you end up spending more trying to chase them than you would, by cleaning them up. So, and they know that. And I think that that is that's a scary thing, and I don't think it should be allowed. I feel like they should be limited to places that they can't do that. That they can't potentially poison or what. And it's like the windmills. It's the same thing. I mean, you see those all over, the St. John's area and that sort of thing. You see them everywhere. And I mean, in theory, they're a good thing, right? They create electricity. They do good things, but again, they can't be recycled. That's what I did worked on there's some legislation that was attempted during the Granholm years that I kind of was reviewing it. I learned a lot about windmills. Those things, you cannot recycle that stuff. So when it goes bad, it's it. So I'll tell you what, you want to come up, let's go into business. Let's figure it out. We'll get some other like kind of engineer kind of people. Bill Reiber, if you're listening, we want you. We're going to figure out a way to take those junky windmills that you can't do anything with because they can't be recycled. We'll repurpose them somehow. Yeah. And we also have to figure out how to, the other thing we do is they kill birds. Like all those things flip and a bird flies in and bye-bye. No more bird. So, that's I don't ever, I hear that as more of an afterthought than an actual reason not to, but that not being able to recycle them and having them once they break, that's it. Company goes, well, goodbye, they're yours, they're your problem.
Well, I think all those who want the solar farms and the wind farms, windmill farms, I think they should, if they want to do something, they should go buy Teslas. Maybe they can get their windmills keyed or something. Yeah. So there's another subject. What is there anything more screwy and hypocritical than the destruction of Tesla by the people that wanted Tesla? Well, the
people that cheered on Tesla suddenly now because Elon is taking away the corruption now Tesla's bad. That is just the craziest thing.
It's sad to see destruction of property. It's always sad to see this mentality that they have to commit arson. They have to try and obliterate a company that actually started out in an effort to improve the environment, create sustainability. But it's just remarkable. And I shouldn't say it's funny. It's ironic and it's tragic. When a vehicle like a Tesla, electric vehicle burns, it's not, as many people know, it's not a traditional fire. You can't just put it out simply or more simply than a traditional fire because of the batteries that are involved with those vehicles. So they're causing even more harm to the environment. They're causing even more harm and potential harm to others. And it's just a tragic situation. And for what? Because a person like Elon Musk wants to stop wasteful spending. Think about that. He wants to stop wasteful spending. He wants to help those who are on Social Security from falling victim to fraud. In fact, I believe it was said that almost 40% of phone calls made to the Department of Social Security on a daily basis are actually fraudulent scam phone calls. And here's somebody who's trying to stop that, and yet people are attacking him.
Well, I mean, they're attacking him. They're not, and here's the thing: they're not truly attacking him. They are defending they are in support of the people that caused the mess. They're in support of the people that assigned the millions and billions of dollars to go different places of the world for gender studies and condoms and things like that. So they're in support of those people. So yes, it doesn't matter that the act was incorrect. The act was wrong. The act was wasteful. The act spent taxpayer monies, American taxpayer monies, in ways that did not benefit America and did not benefit its citizens. So the fact that they're defending those actions it's just ludicrous. Again, ludicrous. It's silly. I just can't. I'm almost entertained by the silliness of the arguments. They just are silly. And I would love to have a good debate with someone that's actually talking about the issue, as opposed to, we want to label books with pornographic content so kids can't get to it. You just hate, you're just a homophobe. You're a racist. You're a Nazi. What part of that said we want to ban books, or we want to, whatever. So it's ludicrous. And I shake my head, and like I said, sometimes I'm just entertained, and lots of times I'm just disgusted by. And here's the thing, they don't understand. The crazier their message. When I told that woman, there's a lady I debate regularly, and I tell her every time she speaks, she sends somebody else my way. So by all means, thank you for President Trump. You did a good job of, talking like a loon and sending everybody that had any kind of sense over our way. And it's like they defend these things, and rather than say, yeah, that might not have been a great idea. Yeah, I supported my president, but I didn't support that he did this. Yeah, I supported our governor, but I don't like that I don't like the whole COVID in the nursing home situation. Instead, they defend it. And there is no direct defense. So they go around the corner and they go around the backyard and they try to create this, like I said, the situation where it's high moral ground. If you don't like this, then you must be a Nazi, and we're against racism. It's nuts. But what they don't understand is that the people watching look at that, and it's so painfully obvious to them that it's garbage. And if they would just stop and step back and say, all right, yeah, we might have pushed this a little too far. The boys in the girls' bathroom thing, yeah, we probably didn't need to go that high. We might have fought for separate trans bathrooms. Okay, all right, that's understandable. We might have fought for separate trans sports. Maybe that was a little bit more acceptable. But, forcing and then defending, and then, the boys in the girls' bathroom, and then not only defending that, but then anybody that objected to it suddenly was racist or homophobic or whatever. It just makes my head spin. And if they would just stop, I think I wrote something on it one time, and I said, there were a lot of the people that supported them might have been Democrats, but they were parents first. And those parents of girls, especially the parents and the grandparents and the nieces, and the aunts and the whatever uncles of girls that were uncomfortable because of this happening, instead of trying to vilify them and ridicule them for saying we don't want this, people will only take that kind of stuff so long, and then what they'll do? They'll vote, and they'll vote quietly. And I fully believe, there was a lot of Republicans that were very, very quiet over the last 2 years. They didn't go beat the drum. They just said enough. And I think a lot of independents, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of independents who are, they align with certain principles. They align with common sense. And when you speak in terms of common sense, they're supportive of that, and it's certainly a attractive quality. It's just governing with common sense, and governing where you are put in, look at the totality of the situations.
Right. And if we're the ones saying we're going to protect your daughters from boys beating them and hurting them in sports, or boys being in their bathroom and having them being, there was a case of a girl in Harlan that she was terrified to go to the bathroom. Terrified because she just, there were boys in there. And, we had a young lady, Anne Marie Reiber, was that her name? It was Angela and Alex's daughter. And she told the most compelling story from her perspective as a high school girl, having a boy with a skirt come in and how that felt. And she said, yes, there are doors, but there's gaps this big, and so she's in there, or it's bad. And she said probably the most intelligent thing and her comment was, what she was angry. She was just angry at the staff and the people that convinced the child that if they transitioned, their lives would be better, and that all their issues would be gone, and all their insecurities, and all their bad feelings, and all their feelings of being bullied, that was the sales pitch for transitioning. And it was, she just said, that it just falls. And kids were believing that because they were miserable or they felt bullied or whatever they felt. And, I don't know a Republican that supports that kind of bullying for any reason at all. And, I feel like a child that wants to be a different gender and wants to dress differently, I believe in free choice. And if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. I don't feel like they should have any kind of life altering procedures while they're still a child. They need to, they should be, if they have to be 18 to get a tattoo, why on earth would they have to be 18 to get something lopped off or stymied or, stifled? So physically, but again, it's this argument that it's okay somehow. And they try to normalize it. And that's the word. They try to normalize it. Like, it's okay. And you're the one who's wrong because you're fighting it. And eventually the parents have said, screw this. No. And it's like, okay, they swung over to our side. So the danger now, what's the danger? The danger now is that we do something dumb, or we take the candy, we run around like kids in a candy store. We can push them back. That's the thing about swing voters. That's why they call them swing voters.
Well, that aligns with what we're encountering. I mentioned this earlier with the committee, the Human Services and Collaborative Body Committee. So again, we opened up the positions for applicants, and we received a handful of applicants. And when I presented the question of, and I'll just stick with the two questions: do you support individual under the age of 18 seeking gender altering services without the consent of a parent or a legal guardian? I mean, right there. I mean, think of everything I just stated in that question. Now, you and we're at one end, and we would say, well, we don't support it. Period. We don't support it under age 18. We don't support. But I mean, let's just say in a nonpartisan fashion, that question on its face, and that question is, are you actually gonna help facilitate somebody getting gender altering services who's under 18, who's just a child, and you're gonna,
that right there is bad enough. Now go the next step
without their
parents,
legal guardian even knowing, and for me to be painted as the one in the wrong or the one inappropriate for asking that question, for me to be painted in that light by NPR, a reliable media source, of course, is mind-boggling to me. And the same goes for someone, again, a similar question. If a girl is under the age of 18 and she's seeking abortions, elective abortion services. Now, I'm opposed to abortion.
Right.
But the question was, if she's seeking elective abortion services, should the legal guardian or parent be informed, involved, give consent, etc.? And again, I'm painted as the one who's posing an inappropriate question. In fact, it startles me, it concerns me, but I'm confident in my fellow commissioners. Again, this is a commissioner item and issue, although it is a national issue, it's a state issue, it's a local issue. But I'm confident my fellow commissioners will again rule with common sense and stand in support of what I'll be bringing forward. And I know as a good, solid, conservative group, I'm optimistic they'll do the right thing, and I'll continue to support the right thing.
Right. And the things that you're asking is just, I hate the term common sense just gets used over and over and over. So I kind of like to shy away from it a little bit, but let's face it, that's what it is. Here's my favorite word in the whole world. My favorite word, ready? Reasonable. It is reasonable. It is reasonable. That's a great word. It's my favorite word. It's not crazy. It's reasonable to have expectations that a county service or a county committee board is not going to facilitate life-changing
Mhm.
physical alterations, whether it be abortion or the abortion issue is the legality of it is decided. That's in the Constitution. It's not a political thing anymore. There's no sense in debating it. It's an issue. The people voted. There it is. But there is still some morality and some ethical behavior that a child under 18 should not have life-changing, physical, permanent stuff. I think about all the things I planned on doing with my life at, 14, 15, 16, 17, and how many times that just changed.
What was that, like 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, listen to you. So you want more bunny season? I know what you're doing. So, I remember way back then that, you made your mind up, and then you change your mind, and then you wanted to do this other thing, and you change your mind, and boy, and I think we got that out of our system. Girls got to get that out of our system because we changed our hair all the time. We colored it, we didn't color it, we put it back, we straightened it, we curled it. So we got all that stuff, but to say that I'm going to do this, and I know I'm, and now they're just now at the point now where the data's coming out, where people are saying, I did this. I felt like it was the right thing to do, and it was the wrong thing to do, and now I'm miserable, and my life is over because now I can't go back to the way I was, and they're miserable, and they're speaking out against it now. So I'm really hoping that pendulum swung so far over, and I part of me, the selfish, I guess that little selfish part that thinks about what's best for Republicans. What's best for Republicans is to continue to argue the dumb arguments that invent, like you were saying a minute ago, made you wrong, right, for wanting something that really was moral high ground, and the NPR accused you or attacked you or made you the wrong guy when you weren't. Part of me says it's great that they continue to do that, because we're just going to end up with a bigger membership and longer. But the problem is that the fallout from that is kids, and I would rather give up the extra voters to just protect these kids, because they're just getting things done that they cannot, and they don't understand. They don't know. They're bulletproof. They think they know everything. I mean, every one of us thought we knew everything when we were that age, and you grow up really quick when you figure out you didn't. So anyway, that's my rant on that one.
Well, I certainly enjoyed being a co-host with you this evening, and it was definitely a pleasure to be here. And I mean, what an honor to sit here with Representative Bollin and Congressman Tom Barrett, and it looks like great things are ahead for our county, our state, and our country.
Yes, we are. I'm just so pleased to be part of this movement. And our party has had. We put membership as number 1 this year. We're gonna so if anybody watching out there, if you're not a member, please join. You want to talk to me first? That's great. You want to talk to me first? Look over here. I'm getting better at pointing to it. There's where you can go. But if you want to talk to me first, chair@livingstonrepublicans.com, and we'll glad to take you on. But we are doing so much fun stuff and so much good stuff. Everything from being in parades. Oh, that a blast. That was such a blast. I'm so sorry you weren't able to come. We had such a blast doing that parade, and we're going to be doing more on 4th of July. Commissioner Sample he had fun too, and he said he would do another one. So there we go. But join our party. We do so much for the community, for our Republican. We help Republican electeds. We help get Republicans elected, and these are the people in school boards that fight to keep the kids, the boys and girls separate in the bathrooms, boys and girls separate in the locker rooms, and boys and girls separate in the sports. We get Republican commissioners. We support our commission very well, very much. They are a great board. They're a great conservative group. They get stuff done. And earlier tonight, you heard Commissioner Fiani here talk about, we built two new, or we're building, not yet. They just approved, and they're going to be building two new EMS substations, right, on the north end of the county and on the south end of the county. And the beauty of that is no bond, no tax, no increase in taxes. They're just going to pay for it because they've saved the money to do it. That's what happens when you get Republican, conservative people that don't waste money. That, as Jay Drick earlier said, they were Doge before Elon was, so Elon copied you guys. So it's what happens when you get Republicans elected. That's what we do. That's what this party does. It supports Republicans. We need very much to take back the majority next year, and to do that, we need your help. You can join a committee. You can work a fundraiser for us. You can just donate. Just even if you have no time whatsoever and you just become a member, that money gets used. It does mailings. It does mailings. It does signs. It does cards. It lets people know. It helps us with the get out the vote effort. We had 80% turnout last November. Well, we got 79.8, and we set the goal for 80. So I'll take it. So anyway, this is what we do with your money. This is what we do when you join. So please go to this little address right over here, right there, and join. And we'll love to have you. We're smart enough to know that this organization is not just effective, and it is effective. Make no mistake, it is fun. We have a blast at our meetings. We have a blast at our social events. We have a blast at grades. We have a blast at everything we do. So even the work is fun. We make the work fun here. So we do workshops. We do educational things. We keep you informed. So please join us if you have not joined us yet. Shout out to the candidates that are filing this week for the City of Howell races. I am thrilled we'll be talking about that soon. So we've got some good conservative Republicans that are a little tired of the City of Howell's overreach. So there's going to be, I think there's going to be, every race is going to be contested in the City of Howell, and that is going to be quite a thing. So you're going to see some, we're throwing a little teaser out there right now. We're going to be seeing some of that come up soon. So getting a lot of calls about it. Anybody has any questions about running for the City of Howell, reach out, chair@livingstonrepublicans.com, and we're happy. So Nick, thank you. I always enjoy whether it's talking to you on the phone or talking to you after a commission meeting or talking to you here on the thing. We'll definitely have you back. You're a great co-host to have. And I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So big shout out over here to the guy you can't see, Tyler Hammock, who's in the background over there, operating our commercials and doing all the techie stuff. He's learning it pretty quickly. So we're working him. So Rob, thanks for the compliment. Good content. We kept him on the edge of your seats. All right. Well, that's awesome to hear, because we really enjoyed that. So good night from the Right Side Podcast from Commissioner Fiani and myself. Look forward to, we have our EC meeting Thursday. All Republicans are welcome to come. The voting section, the business section, is from 7 to 7:30, and from 7:30 on, we have different presentations and legislative updates, and Representative Bollin, Representative Wolford come, and other electeds that kind of update things. And we have, as I said earlier, we have Representative Brian Posthumus from Kent County, who's got the ballot proposal that only United States citizens can vote in Michigan. So that I'm looking forward to hearing about. Brian Posthumus, for those who might have that, someone older than you, obviously, that name might ring a bell. You'll remember his father, Dick Posthumus, was the lieutenant governor to Governor John Engler, and his sister, Lisa Posthumus Lyons, was a state representative, and she's in Kent County there. She was in Kent County. I believe she's a Kent County clerk now. Clerk, treasurer? Maybe not. Maybe not Kent County. Maybe a township out there. I don't know. She's in local government out there somewhere, and she's wonderful. She ran, I think, as Bill Schuette's running mate for governor. So lieutenant governor for. So she was great, and I liked working with her. I used to work for the one of the two Kent County senators, Senator Mark Jansen, and so we did a lot of Kent County stuff with both Brian's father and Brian's sister. So I knew both of them. So I'm looking forward to his visit on Thursday, and he's going to tell you about this this ballot proposal. I also would like to hear. I'd like to hear from you guys too. Send me an email about what kind of things you'd like to hear on this program. I'm really spending a lot of time talking to EC members, talking to electeds about what kind of content they'd like to see here. What would you like to see more of? What might you like to see less of? And just give us some ideas. I know on the list I had some people reach out, talk to me about the ranked choice voting. So we're going to probably do something on that before too long. We'll have somebody here. I'm hoping that the solar farm takes Nick up on his dare, and so we get both of them. We get a little debate over here going, so that's going to be kind of fun. And but we also have some good stuff coming. So I think we have Kevin Rinke coming April 15th. And so we've got MRP chair Senator Runstead, the Michigan Republican Party chair, is coming May 20th, whatever that Thursday is. So we got some good stuff coming, and we've still got some wiggle room. So any hot stuff that happens, we're gonna come up. But so hang on there, hang on, stay with us every Tuesday here at 7, and come to our events. Make sure you come over here to Remax Real Estate, round back 7 o'clock, or you can come at 7:30 if you don't want to watch the voting, and learn a bunch of stuff about what we do and have some fun. So good night, everybody, and we'll see you next Tuesday.